Good morning, everybody. So today I'm going to read chapter 6 from Virginia Guiffre's memoirs, the 2014, um, which were included in the documents in Ghislaine Maxwell's case. That's where I got this. So, and these are a little bit more closer, more reliable to what the truth was because I mean, I wouldn't say one of the biggest because we've got so many problems, but one of the problems with the MeToo movement has been that they've been grooming these women. Say this is the dialogue, these are the talking points. Uh, so it's, and I mean, they've used a lot of them. I just saw. Oh, I was looking at the pilot. This Larry. The last name starts with a V. I can't remember. Virginia had mentioned him. And yeah, effectively, it's this Larry V something. It's a Eastern European Slavic name, I believe, or Russian. Uh, and um, yeah, he'd been there for a long time, but yeah, what was I? Now I forgot my train of thought. Oh God, and I just woke up. So maybe I should have had coffee. The problem with coffee is the caffeine. It brings my blood pressure up, but then it shoots it down. Um, so anyway, I was looking at him yesterday. So I'm going to read from chapter 6. Upon our arrival at New Jersey's private airstrip, the driver, Jojo, met us. His name was most likely shortened for something of his Oriental descent. Jeffrey liked to shorten the names of his multicultural staff into American names. He liked diversity, equity, and inclusion. Yeah, see, it's all a facade. Yeah, Jeffrey Epstein, he was racist. And he was into eugenics and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, all sorts of stuff. Even Juan and Maria were known as John and Mary. But I was just thinking, I haven't heard any evidence of yet of Jeffrey Epstein like eating human flesh or, drinking blood, human flesh. And although maybe he did have transfusions, that's another thing that they're doing. Yeah, I mean, like, I look at people with tattoos, and I'm just like, I'm not gonna voluntarily let anybody stick a needle in me. Okay, you have to let them sometimes. Um, but I mean, just for the fun of it. Oh God, no. Yeah. Okay. Even Juana and Maria were known as John and Mary. We arrived in the Upper East Side of Manhattan. Yeah, that's so disrespectful. So disrespectful. We arrived in the Upper East Side of Manhattan. His principal place of residence was the largest home in Manhattan, 8 stories of opulence. It used to be a private school for boys many years ago, until Les Wexner, Jeffrey's best friend and mentor, bought it for him as a mysterious gift. There were 2 large Chinese gargoyles outside the entrance, and besides the heavy-looking wooden doors, there was an intercom with a camera overlooking us. Well, this is a sidetrack, but I was looking at that there was some stuff about gargoyles. a video, but it was looking at like scientific and that they were sound transmitters, um, in the shape and and they're being placed on churches and they're doing with the ringing of the bells. It was interesting. Um, so I walked up the concrete steps into a realm of wealth, glamour, and most of all, influence. My eyes glistened at the splendor of his palace, caramel-colored marble tiles spread through the first floor where his gourmet kitchen and dining hall were also located. Then I came into this sweeping staircase that curved into the next level where Jeffrey and I went into his office, even though it looked more like a museum exhibit. Ancient drapiers that told lavish stories of their own covered part of the elevated walls, and the remaining wall spaces were taken up by rows on top of rows of books. He loved to read, as he often found it hard to sleep, and was comforted in the early morning hours with his literature, or sometimes in other ways I would come to find out. I mean, this is a very domestic life. And I'm sorry, any girl from West Palm Beach, uh, who waltz in to this mansion, all she's got to do is a couple hours of work per day, give this guy a massage and sleep with him. Uh, and she's got the rest of the, you'll see, to go shopping, to discover, free to do what she wants, to discover Manhattan and, you know, as I said, do whatever she wants. I mean, there's lots and lots and lots of girls who would give and do give up a lot to do. All of these models that come to New York, and I mean, under much, much more difficult circumstances. But New York is the center of that. There's even one of the things that I'm like, wait a second, from the description here of Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, there's been other stuff that has come out with the Epstein files that, is horrific on Ghislaine Maxwell. I mean, even the 13-year-old, um, I believe it was Ghislaine Maxwell, or that's what the claim is, that she delivered the baby. But there is a testimony where Ghislaine Maxwell is delivering a baby. Uh, so yeah, that's another can of worms. But from what Virginia Guer describes in this memoirs, I'm like, wait a second, you guys, this is no different than Mayflower Madame. Of She was this ran an escort service in New York in the 70s and 80s, and a sting operation, and she was arrested and she was fined $5,000, got probation, a book deal, and Candice Bergen played her in, I mean, it was a TV movie. Okay, it didn't get the big screen. I think it was a TV movie. Still, and she then started consulting business. And to this day, she has a consulting business. Um, but the thing is she was called Mayflower Madam because her ancestors came on the Mayflower. Now, Pam Biddle, one of the Biddle, was in my class at Foxcroft. Um, you know, so it's, as I was saying to somebody yesterday, I mean, I was saying, I know all of these people, all the ruling elite in Tucson, Phoenix, um, or, my parents. I mean, when we left, I was 14. So of course it was more the people that my parents knew. And then my parents did go back when they left Louisiana, which is another story. of corruption and all sorts of intrigue. Um, Funny patriotic housewife. She's looking for all sorts of stories about corruption. I'm like, oh, have I got stories for you? Never hear back from her. Whatever. I know what it is. It is this whole, see, she's West Palm Beach and I'm East Palm Beach, even though when I was at Foxcroft, yeah, all the girls went down to Palm Beach. I mean, they didn't call it East Palm Beach. They just called it Palm Beach. Of course, need you explain more that you were going to, of course, East. But yeah, I would spend my vacations in Louisiana on my parents' farm, reforming houses, carpentry work, and all sorts. I can do anything. I'm not, when it comes to electricity and plumbing, plumbing's not as difficult. Electricity, you don't want to screw around with that shit because you or somebody else could die. Plumbing is basically just gluing stuff together, although you do need the proper instructions. Anyway, so yeah, as I say, this is not, is this appropriate? Is this something that I condone or that I encourage? And is this even legal? No, it's not. But it is not what Virginia Guiffre or the MeToo or any of her lawyers have painted her out to be. Even other victims say, oh my goodness, Virginia Guiffre was worse than Ghislaine Maxwell, because you'll find she even goes and recruits. So, the victimhood, this playing the victim card, it's just been so encouraged. When I got back to DC in 2009, I've seen it since I've gone back, and it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. I was pissed off in Spain because, they call themselves the women's rights. It was mujeres separadas y divorciadas, and the different domestic violence groups, nonprofits. They offer you a shoulder to cry on. It's like, anda, anda, no llores, no llores. Or here, cry on my shoulder. And here's talking points and a pamphlet that does you absolutely no good. Is a waste of time and money. Those things are a facade and a sick joke. Um, so, this is, I just, this crying and the playing the victim card, it is just encouraged all over the place, and it is counterproductive. It was very self-destructive to Virginia Guiffre. I'd like some real testimony of how things went downhill, because she had left Jeffrey Epstein behind. She had started a new life with her husband. I'm sure she had baggage, that girl, her entire life. But she had moved on. And then when the FBI came back in, and that was like 2008, or maybe it was 2007, the whole thing came out again and disrupted her life. Oh yeah, she made lots of money. She had this ranch in Australia, but there were also some other mansion where she was living. She struck gold with this thing. So there was a mantelpiece and a sofa with two armchairs next to the grand piano that flaunted more of Jeffrey's beautiful conquests. Young women posing in salacious pictures, suggesting I could be easily replaced next to one of those girls. See, she's worried about being replaced, and jealous of the beautiful conquest. If I failed in keeping him satisfied, I mean, also this girl was like never any. She she wouldn't have made it as a top model. I mean, I don't know how tall she was, but she was not like this striking, gorgeous girl. She was a dumb blonde. There were also some pictures with recognizable political and royal figures either shaking Jeffrey's hand or with an arm around each other, even one with Jeffrey and the Dalai Lama, although his church was the bank. You know, he liked to use his power, wealth, and money to manipulate everyone in his life. Yeah, of course. I mean, that's what the rich and famous do, and that's really what Jeffrey Epstein's job was. I mean, it's funny because Jeffrey Epstein is the Ian Fleming James Bond, uh, who likes him a bit young. I mean, to this point, with a 16 or 17-year-old, yes, okay, as I say, with the Epstein files, we are seeing that this is getting into much younger. Because what Virginia Guer was saying was like with Maria Farmer's younger sister, he would, uh, how shall I say it, touch these girls, but there was no, until they were of a certain age, like 16 or 17, there was no sexual intercourse, according to Guiffre in these memoirs. Now, as I say, this is changing with the Epstein files. Um, but as I say, throughout this, she is not, she, like, she's not a convincing victim. This is why I'm like, this was included in the documents submitted in Ghislaine Maxwell, and I'm sure this was not submitted by Ghislaine Maxwell. This would have been submitted by Guiffre's lawyers, and I'm like, why would they submit this? Because Maxwell's lawyers would have had a field day with this thing and totally exonerate Ghislaine Maxwell. I mean, she was just there. I mean, Virginia Guer is painting it one way, but you could definitely, well, Ghislaine Maxwell was there. She opened the door. Um, You'd have a little bit more difficulty explaining how Ghislaine Maxwell met her at Mar-a-Lago. But, as I say, this is not, ask Baron Coleman if you had this document to defend your client, Ghislaine Maxwell. I mean, let's just say you wouldn't look at it and say, oh, all's lost. It's not like we got pizza stories in here. See what I'm saying? Um, so he made a phone, let's see. He made a phone call that sounded businesslike, and I didn't mind. I was quite enjoying talking in all of the beauty around me. I was blinded by all of it. I was still waiting for him when Ghislaine Maxwell came in. She asked me what I thought so far of my trip to New York. I knew she was talking about the house. She loved to gloat, even though none of it actually belonged to her. She wanted everyone to believe that it did. Now, I think this is kind of, I think you would call this transference. Uh, she's the one who wishes that house belonged to her. because apparently Ghislaine didn't live at the house, even when she was like, if we called it dating, I don't know, with uh, Jeffrey Epstein. Apparently, she lived elsewhere. Um, so, uh, let's see. I complimented her on the medieval, oh, see, medieval looking tapestries and a few other adornments. Yeah, this is evil. Well, okay. Um, yeah, see, I said her English is not great. A few other adornments when she cut me off mid-sentence to compliment it herself, telling me the history about the 17th century tapestries, which to an unsophisticated eye looked to me like a rug on the wall. Oh gosh. Uh, I guess Virginia would have found me extremely boring and be like, oh God, this pretentious bitch. Yeah, no, I mean, I find it all fascinating. I mean, that's what education and culture is supposed to give you an appreciation for these things. Um, I mean, one of the places that I send people for tapestries, it's where Franco, this is in Madrid, uh, where Franco lived. And they have some, I mean, absolutely gorgeous tapestries and quite a few of them. They have a huge collection. Um, so definitely it's kind of off the beaten track, but it's definitely worth going to if you visit Madrid. So anyway, Jeffrey hung the phone up and walked over to the sofa. See, I mean, I'm sure many people are like, oh, she's so pretentious because she's, talks about this, she talks about that. I'm like, well, no, it's just you spend all of your time glued to a telephone and like I don't know what you are looking at because you have no knowledge about anything. I mean, it really, this is a health crisis in the country, and I'm not joking, of stupidity and no common sense and just incapable of of understanding basic instructions, of not getting into debt. I mean, just from every side, this is a shit show. I mean, and we're talking about eating children. I mean, it boggles the mind. Okay. Um, Jeffrey hung the phone up and walked over to the sofa where we were sitting next to the mantelpiece and took a seat on one of the armchairs. He didn't seem worried from the phone call, but his mind was definitely somewhere else from the hard look on his face. We all spoke for a few moments more about the splendid decor before Jeffrey had enough small talk and needed some of his own relaxation time. He told Ghislaine he was going to shower, he was going to show me to the massage room, and he'd be back in a couple of hours. She agreed. He looked like he could use some time to unwind, and with that wry grin of hers, she gave me a look that told me precisely how he was expecting to be relaxed. Now, I mean, I'm thinking, my lord, I could, I don't know how many books I could read, the Barbara Cartland type of romance books I could read that would have turned this thing into, made Virginia Guiffre a little older, uh, and turned this into some great romance novel. where, where of course she hadn't been with Ron Eppinger, and that she's not grossed out by sleeping with this guy. I mean, quite frankly, if that's the case, then you shouldn't be there. Because I mean, okay, is Epstein my type? No, not at all. I mean, that whole world is not my type. That's why I left Washington and I left the United States in the 80s. I wanted nothing to do with that world. Um, so, and that's if I had stayed, I would have been a part of it. I too would have figured somewhere in the Epstein files, probably not prominently, but someplace. Yeah, I mean, I would have been like Tucker Carlson, not invited to John Podesta's house. However, see, the thing is I was always a liberal. My mom, as I often say, she even disowned me because I went to work for a Democrat. Um, so yeah, I guess I had no option but to leave. But anyway, and happily so, believe me. Ugh, I just, it's like the longest I've lived in any one city in my life is Washington, D.C., and it's the one I hate the most. So we left his office all together, Ghislaine going downstairs and Jeffrey showing me to the lifts. The lift looked like its original that came with the school. Oh, I guess with one of those gates. I always like that Paris has those. It was made out of brass antique with archaic cuts throughout the arches on the top. It wasn't the only lift in the house, but certainly the most beautiful. We walked, and she calls it a lift, not an elevator. We walked down a long hall carpeted in a royal red and golden trim, passing by a bronze pagan statue of the horny little goat god Pan. How adequate, I thought. Fit Jeffrey to a T. Yeah, I mean, we walked into this dimly lit room, another daunting chamber that looked like we had stepped back in time to the Dark Ages. It took a second for my eyes to adjust to the darkness, and Jeffrey beckoned me to follow him through the room to the open adjoining shower, toilet, and steam room. The room was in black marble to accent the dreariness, and smaller than the one in Palm. Um, I mean, the thing also is I mean, her parents didn't call the police or anything and say, oh, my underage daughter has left and gone to New York with this guy. So she did go under parental consent. So, what actions were ever taken against her parents? And the father is accused now of having sexually molested her. And you have to understand, these people who are sexually molesting one person, one girl, it's not just one girl. Uh, that's one of the problems also of not pursuing these these perpetrators. So Palm Beach, but it had its own witchery feel to it. Another unseen side to this man I was coming to know. We both undressed, and I followed Jeffrey into the steam room first. I mean, if it's a mansion in Manhattan, it's already going to have another feel to it. As she says, this medieval type feel to it rather than his mansion in Palm Beach, which is going to be much newer and, more pristine, just a whole different kit and caboodle. And yeah, of course, witchery. So we are getting into some satanic stuff. But again, as I say, I don't think she sees anything other than that type of stuff. We both undressed, and I followed Jeffrey into the steam room first. He loved feeling clean, teaching me that the steam would deplete the toxins from your skin, which was great during a massage when your blood flow is being replenished. I grabbed his foot out of instinct, knowing I had to be constantly on alert to keep this man satisfied. He looked down at me with a nod and reclined back against the wall as the steam poured in. This was his idea of alleviation. I worked up to his calves, and within a few more minutes, he said he was ready for his massage on the bed. We got out and towel dried off, both still nude. He asked me to stay undressed when we headed to massage bed in the middle of the room. He laid down on the bed and told me to turn on the CD player on the wall hutch, where all of the oils and lotions were set out. I hit play, and a collection of mixed classical symphonies began to fill the silence. I could tell he wasn't in one of those moods to be uplifted with idle chat, so I remained silent, letting him enjoy my slow movements, making my way up his body. My instincts told me I was right about his mood, as he seemed to appreciate the quietness of moment and the leisurely of the strokes I was using to massage him. When I got to his scalp, he turned over and grabbed my hand and put it on his erect manhood. No word spoken yet, I took the gesture and initiated what I had been taught over the last week. Wow, what she'd been taught over the last week? Yeah, it's been many more than just the last week that she's been taught these type of things. While pleasing my master, his hands groped my young flesh, penetrating my insides with his fingers. I don't know, she's like trying to become literary here. He was only concerned, I mean, these are the type of things, if you take a creative writing class, these are the type of words that okay, it would be you see this description, it would be a porn literary class. I mean, okay, not porn, but definitely Harold Robbins. This is definitely Harold Robbins type, descriptions. Okay, he was only concerned with what he wanted, as if I was a new car out for a test drive and he was pressuring his new gadgets. His soft moans were soon brought to louder heaves of breath, and my job was done. No intimate kisses or pillow talk. He showed his appreciation with money, never attachment. We concluded with a shower, and he told me he had some business to conclude. He walked me to the lift and told me to go to the next level, and my room was the first one on the right. It had an intercom in which he can contact me when needed. I hit the number 5 on the lift and took his direction to my room, opened the door to this massive loft the size of an adequate house. I walked down the long hall, and my eyes looked in the magnificence of my surroundings. It was a room fit for royalty, and later would find out had been stayed in by some. The room was trimmed in gold paint and had another eerie tapestry on the main wall as featured. Eerie tapestry? My goodness. These are antiques. That was a TV and a huge king, unless there's some but antique tapestries. I don't know. Maybe there's a market of them, of devil worshipping antique tapestries, but none that I've ever seen. And I mean, I'm a antique buff. I love going any flea markets, antique places. One of my favorite is the Porte de Clignancourt in Paris. This is the north. It's at the last stop of one of the metro lines. And it's one of the most well known. And you do have some flea market type of stuff there, but you have some real antiques there. Um, Definitely something to go to. I mean, it's mobbed on Saturdays and Sundays. It's only on the weekends. Although maybe they're open on the week now. I would go on Mondays because you wouldn't have a big mob. You'd have a lot of things closed, but you would still have enough stuff to look at. I was an au pair. I couldn't buy anything, maybe a trinket or two, but even so. Anyway, there was a TV. See, when I left, I was making great money. I was in the stock market. It was 87. I have to say, I mean, I understand trading and the finance, where the how shall I say, the attraction is. I always tell people, sure, all this trading, whether it be currency, stocks, whatever you're trading, um, it's just like going to the casino. It gives you a rush, it's a high, but it's even more fun because you're not doing it with your own money. But it's a casino, and more and more and more so. I mean, these people are just screwing around with everybody's money. Oh, when it collapses and everybody finds out how they've been had, it's not going to go well. Okay, the room was trimmed. There was a TV and a huge king size bed with goose feathered comforter and pillows. I mean, as I say, you read this and anybody's going to be like, oh my God, this girl, she hit pay dirt. All of the glitter from Jeffrey's lifestyle he was offering me finally covered the last bit of sight I had left, and I let go of my consciousness. Excited by my enthralling day, not having anyone around to act reserved, I jumped into the soft bed and lay looking around, thinking about how quick life could change based upon one swift decision. Yes, she just doesn't sound like a victim here. Dazing, as I say, there'll be occasional interjections, when she's having sex with Jeffrey, where she's like grossed out, but you know, you can just leave. Like she was not, like in the case with Ron Eppinger, she wasn't being detained. Um, the intercom buzzed on the telephone next to the bed, and it was a housemaid letting me know Jeffrey wanted to see me in his office now. Already, I thought to myself, I was just getting settled in. I was worried I was going to get lost in this ancient museum, but I got myself back to his office with no trouble. It was kind of hard to miss. First, she's afraid she's going to get lost, then his office is easy to find. See, there's contradictions like that, when you're talking to somebody and they contradict themselves constantly like that, you're like, well, what what's the truth? Um, I knocked at the slightly ajar door and Jeffrey called for me to enter. I walked over to his desk where he was just ending a phone call. Sorry. And he opened his duffel bag full of money. I'll be out at my other office for most of the day, so instead of being locked inside, I thought you should go do some sightseeing for the day since it is your first trip to the Big Apple. I mean, I'm thinking of the movie with Julia Roberts and Richard Gere right now. He didn't count how much he was giving me. He just handed me a bundle out of the banded $100 bills. He knew just how to pull the right strings. making me squeal in delight and give him a kiss in the cheek, on the cheek. Since we were never really emotionally intimate, it would be odd to act in another way, but he seemed to like it. I mean, as I say, this reminds me, it's Pretty Woman. And I mean, I have to say, I liked the movie. I understand the people who had a problem with it. But in terms of, entertaining, yeah, I mean, this is a theme, My Fair Lady. Okay, of course, it would have been unseemly for her actually to have slept with Rex Harrison, the young girl. They were just doing it, for linguistic study purposes. But it's a story that we have heard for thousands of years, and how courtesans are made. And this is the thing, the feminist movement was supposed to have liberated women so they wouldn't be in the situation that Virginia Guer is in right now. I ran upstairs to get dressed for city shopping and put my makeup on, then hit the streets of New York, of NYC, looking for a place to start spending this loads of dosh. When I got to the end of 72nd Street on Fifth Avenue, I had no idea which way to turn, left or right. I thought I'd just follow the lights past Central Park and see the local sights on my way. My eyes were once again peeled back in splendor. I had never imagined a place so busy with the hustle and bustle of all the walks of life. Yeah, I mean, she's, yes, been to West Palm Beach, East Palm Beach, Colorado, um, and I guess they used to go to ranches when she was young. I think she says that she used to go to ranches with her family when she was young. So yeah, she's never really seen a big city, much less the Big Apple. Um, my first stop was to buy a disposable camera, and I was off taking photos of every wonder that caught my attention. I mean, as I say again, this reminds me of some 1950, 1960s film of, the young girl, she goes to New York and she's like, oh, click, click, click. I didn't do much shopping as I had planned to. I was having too much fun exploring this capacious metropolitan. When it started to hit dusk, I began walking back to Jeffrey's, but not before stopping off to enjoy a giant slice of pepperoni pizza. He gave her all this money and she went and she took pictures. It was the best I ever had. And considering I was going back to Jeffrey's chickpea and tofu salads or such, I really hated the healthy cuisine served by Jeffrey's personal chef. I was a naturally skinny girl, never watching what I ate, and to eat that food, I might as well have chewed on hay. I strolled. I mean, Jeffrey has this personal chef of, like, people dream of just dining on this kind of food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and she's like, no, I just want pizza. Um, I mean, I agree that it's all very pretentious, but you know, she's so impressed with it, yet at the same time, she disdains it. I mean, I mean, this is one of the biggest problems with all of these podcasters. The ruling elite, the ruling elite, the ruling elite. Everybody, everything is the fault of the ruling elite. And I'm like, wait a second, you podcasters, you have a constituency, you have a voice, you are part of the ruling elite now, and they just want to talk about these rich billionaires, and that this is one of the main reasons that we've seen such, an increase in concentration of wealth into the hands of the 1%ers, the 10%ers, um, and even the lower classes, they're like, they love to hate the rich. They're enthralled with the opulence and this the more ostentatious finery. See, with old money people, discretion is the better part of valor. Um, and this nouveau riche opulence, they're so impressed with it, and they don't, you know, they have no morals, no scruples. They don't care what is being done to produce this wealth. They're not going to ask any questions. Um, I mean, Melania is the perfect example. Uh, I mean, I knew. I mean, my husband. This is one of the big things, and one of the big things about my case with against the Spanish government. I never, to this day, I've never seen the financials of our marriage. And under the law, and this is one of the points, I'm like, wait a second, how can you liberate women? I mean, when you have the dissolution of marriage, this is one of like the key moments, and is going to, because if she has no rights in the courts and no rights over her property, which legally are hers, but she has no access to them and no rights, well, then, that's not liberating her. And she can't, anytime her husband wants her, if she disagrees, well, I'm going to divorce you and take her, I'm going to divorce. It's like my Indian friend from Cobham Hall. She said, my husband can say, I divorce you, I divorce you, I divorce you, and throw me out on the street with nothing. I was like, oh, that's what happened to the American in Spain. Um, so that's where uh, that's where if you really want to liberate women and make them into full-fledged citizens, you defend their rights, not try and get them into positions of power so you can all become power-hungry bitches. You complain about patriarchy. Oh, the matriarchy that you guys want to bring in. Oh, it's even worse. Um, and it's precisely because of this backstabbing witchery that patriarchy systems exist, to keep all women from killing each other. Uh, okay. I strolled back to Jeffrey's and was missed. Ghislaine scolded me. You shouldn't have been gone so long, young lady. We need to know where you are at all times. You are on call for Jeffrey. I started to apologize, feeling guilty. I didn't want them to think I didn't take my job with them seriously. She cut me off. She cut off my explanation with a short conclusion to this conversation. We will get you a cell phone tomorrow so we can always find you. I thanked her for her generosity, and she dismissed me to my room. So I wasn't even needed after all. It was just a way for her to place me deeper in their control. The next day, I mean, this is kind of normal with this whole madam relationship, and it's going to be Ghislaine. Jeffrey, oh, here, go and take some money and go and go shopping, go have fun. And Ghislaine is the mom type of thing. Where have you been? What, I have to know where you are at all moments. Well, I'll get you a phone. So yeah, fortunately that's that's not unusual, and not to be it's to be expected. Okay, so the next few days I was on call, as Ghislaine said I'd be. Well, I mean, if you're being taken to New York and put up in this luxury mansion, and even here's some $100 bills, go and have fun and stuff, yeah, you're pretty much on call 24/7. I mean, You're not working most of the time, but you're on call. Yeah. Venturing out to the city for only an hour or so at a time, I look most forward to my outings. I would return to Jeffrey's. Yeah, I mean, of course, go to here, come on a trip to to New York, and you can just see the sights. Spend the day seeing the sights, and you just get to give some massages and sleep with this guy in exchange. I mean, this is going on all of the time, people. You know, I hate to break the news to everybody all of the time. So, to attend to his sexual desires, and when he finished with me, I'd be off to my adventures. Well, on the dais again, it doesn't sound to me like she is being forced or coerced or anything other than a sugar baby prostitute. On the day before, we were to be heading back to Palm Beach. Jeffrey had a new proposition for me. I could make double the money I was making if I would look for pretty girls and convince them to come back to Jeffrey's to be further persuaded with Bunny to engage in bisexual and sexual acts with Jeffrey and I. I asked him, how does one actually propose such a thing to a complete stranger? Good question. Yeah, I wouldn't know what to say. Well, he said in a build up to another kind of lesson, if I were you, I would use your charm to entice them and my money to bring them. I would tell them you work for a multi-billionaire who has a taste for young, beautiful girls, and with his contacts in the acting, modeling, or rich husband world, your boss could help them. All they have to do is come meet me first. If I wasn't so naive at the time, I would have seen that's exactly what he was doing with me. My prospects were massage credentials, but with too much pain from my past, I could only have hope. I mean, I don't like this girl. She is not naive by this time. She has been trafficked, Ron Eppinger. I mean, like, this makes no sense. Um, Not that I was a shy girl. And yeah, I mean, how many of the models say, oh, yeah, I was approached and oh my goodness, you're so pretty. You should do modeling. Let's get some photos of you, hook you up, get you into that world. I mean, I'm only 5'4". There was anybody, anyway, anybody was going to come and, give me a modeling contract. Although I did one time work for a model, but I mean, it was a response in the newspaper. It was usually like they do a lot of it, it's the canvassing. You find the canvassers out there. They would advertise in the newspaper, and it was $5 an hour, and it'd be 1 or 2 weeks or something, and it was you could work it around your schedule. A lot of times it would be the weekend, so working around my school schedule, and it was $5. It was good money, and I did smoke cigarettes at the time, and so a lot of times it'd be passing out free samples of new cigarettes. So to boot, I'd get some free cigarettes in there. And particularly like on the last days, usually they'd be like, okay, we're shutting down early. And you'd end up with like cartons of cigarettes. Yeah. So anyway, uh, one time I did respond to some guy who but it was like for not even catalogs. I don't know. What you Google now, you'll say, oh, I need a photo of these stock shops. I need a photo of some people in the background or a photo of some girl standing next to a fence or something. And yeah, I mean that's basically what it was. And he did say, "Would you do anything? Take off your clothes?" And I was like, "No." So he gave me the $5. Yeah, I mean it was, I don't know, a couple hours or so, $20, whatever. And I mean, come on. This is, although I did have a friend that worked, who was a waiter in the restaurant where I worked. And it was one of the first restaurants where I was working. And so he was helping me out because in those days they just gave you a platter and were like, good luck. And he's like, okay, here, put this, you know, marry the ketchup and the basic stuff. Like, somebody tells you to marry ketchup and you go, what am I, what does that mean? So yeah, but he said he was gay and he was a male prostitute. Heart of gold, heart of gold, one of the nicest people I've ever known in Washington. And he was like, look, you work so hard, all of these hours, you're educated, you're well put together. Let me hook you up with the escort service. And I mean, you're not going to be walking the streets, and a lot of this is just these guys come to Washington and they want somebody to have dinner with. They're going to go out to the theater or something and just don't want to be alone for the evening, and you don't have to sleep with them. And I was like, because it's an escort service. I was like, look, first, I find that creepy. Yeah, I don't want to do that. But I mean, I didn't tell him I find that creepy, but uh, I didn't want to offend him. He was a very nice guy, and there was no malicious intent. But I was like, yeah, not. So this is, you know, this has become acceptable these days. I mean, you have girls who are in law school, people who are, working their way through college and, paying for it by being a sugar baby. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. So anyway, okay. Um, Not that I was a shy girl, but picking up girls for one reason alone, only to be endorsed for her body, didn't sound like something I could do. Well, also, I don't know if she's considering the legal ramifications of what's going on here, because it's one thing to, you know, sell your own body. It's another thing to solicit prostitution. Not that okay, but not wanting to displease my master. I told him that I would give it a go. You could tell he was instantly excited with my agreement. He started to reveal the politics of what kind of girls he was looking for. He wasn't into multicultural girls, a very chauvinistic perception. He said they had to be uniquely gorgeous to be accepted by him, but definitely no African American girls. He was racist against anything different to his kind. So yeah, not African American girls. I don't think he liked Asians either, because a lot of these New York guys, um, Asians are okay, but yeah, they are racist. A very narrow-minded way of thinking for such a supposed brilliant man. The list went on and on. No girls with tattoos or piercings, or gothics, no drug users, or prostitutes. Yeah. See, she's not thinking of herself as a prostitute. Basically, he wanted everyone's daughter that looked like the girl next door with blue eyes and blonde curly ringlets. Yeah, the fantasy of the young girl in the school uniform. How many creepy men out there have that fantasy. I just nodded and smiled, wanting this thing to be over with and me move on to another conversation. But so worked up from our previous talk, instead he persisted to show me exactly what I was good for to him. He looked me up to the highest loft. He took me up to the highest loft in his large mansion, and he laid down on his large bed, expecting me to know exactly what he wanted done. As always, I complied. Part of me hating him for having to degrade myself to be so subservient to his sexual whims, and another part of me telling myself to be grateful for the opportunities I was being given. I mean, by this time, as I say, she's 16 or 17. I think she's going to turn 17. Um, so it is a time where she is going to start becoming sexually active. So of course for her, this, I mean, see, this is also having to degrade myself to be so subservient to sexual whims. I mean, most of the girls you listen, for example, the girls that were with her with Ron Eppinger, they were kind of like, yeah, no big deal. Like, yeah, you blow them and then we go shopping. Um, so if she finds this such a disgusting experience, why didn't she just stay with the $9 job at Mar-a-Lago, and she was back with her parents? I mean, her parents are not happy that she's doing this. They didn't stop her, but I mean, what are they going to do? Call Child Protection Services? She'd be out the door faster than they could get to the phone. Yeah, so the battles in my head were beginning to cause me too much anxiety. When we got back to Palm Beach, I asked my mom to make me a doctor's appointment for some headaches I had been getting lately, so she wouldn't question me. I walked out. Oh, oh, she wanted it for anxieties, but she said it was for headaches. But you're not going to get Xanax for headaches. I walked out of the doctor's with a prescription for a mind-altering anxiety tablet called Xanax. Not only did it help with anxiety, but also act as a blanket over terrible memories. So when I had to perform degrading acts, I would take a few pills and forget what happened within the next hour and be able to become someone without a battling conscience. I spent my sweet 16th birthday on his, okay, this is her 16. So she is 15 when she meets him. I spent my sweet 16th birthday on his island in the Caribbean next to St. James Isle. He liked to call it Little Jeff's. So 15 years old, I'm not positive if that is a felony. And he was just charged with a misdemeanor. Yeah, 15, I'm not positive. I mean, I'm not saying 15 is too young, 16 is too young, 17, these girls should not be anywhere near these men at 50 years old. But in terms of legal procedures, and we have laws for a reason, and the law should be applied. But all I'm saying is once they start having boobs and being able to have children throughout history, they start becoming sexually active. This is why it is very important to have families and, that are together and that are watching what is going on with their children and who care about their children. And the kids are not just running around wild, and that there's no abuse going on within their own homes. And it's not just the sexual or the physical abuse, it's the verbal abuse. I mean, that's what I just with my ex-husband's family, with my mother and my siblings. It was horrible. You just you say, oh no, they're withdrawn, they're like autistic. I'm like, no, 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 I just don't want to get involved. I just carry a book around. I'm like, when you guys finish your what you call a discussion is really just an argument. Um, when you finish your squabbling, tell me what you've decided, and we'll get on with the day. I pull out my book, you know. I kind of do my like my dad. Okay, you guys, when you finish with all of your, fighting, let me know what you've decided. And I mean, all of these people. Oh God, Tony Lyons. He describes it. Yes, I love to have robust discussions. These people sit around like cackling hens and squabbling, producing absolutely nothing but debt and stupidity for society. Um, so we would go to St. James Isle. He liked to call it Little St. Jeff's. His ego was as enormous as his appetite for fornicating. Now, apparently, I think it was Tucker Carlson that was saying this, that he was, we're talking about with some guy, I think, was it Joe Rogan? But we're talking about like this cream that they're putting on that made him like really, really horny. And they were going, yeah, Jeffrey was putting that shit on. So this was not just a creepy guy. This was some like, and these pumping of pills. I remember when, the spam you used to get all the time in your inbox, Viagra, 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 Viagra. I mean, I was like, my God, what is everybody doing out there? So I was given a birthday cake and a new collection of designer makeup from London. Ghislaine made a joke after I blew out my array of candles and said I'd be soon getting too old for Jeffrey's taste, and soon they'd have to trade me in. She was only half joking in a sad reality, though. A few days after my birthday, a girl was flying out to the island to join us for a few days before flying back to NYC. I was introduced to a pretty girl a few years my senior, named Sarah. So it was somebody older than her. Um, so she has, I mean, if Virginia just turned 16, the girl's a few years her senior, the girl's probably 18. She had long ash blonde hair and big brown eyes that hinted she had a cheeky nature. I don't know why the color of the hair or the color of eyes hint at a cheeky nature, but okay. She had known Jeffrey before I had, and he was supposedly trying to help her get an acting job in LA. She was obviously accustomed to the lifestyle he provided her, making it ever so apparent with her prompt attention she lavished on him. She would do things like strip nude and bathe around the swimming pool, taunting him for sex. She was good at what she did, even putting me at ease with her cool persona and funny jokes. I mean, it sounds like any of the Hollywood mansions you might go to today. Jeffrey told me privately that she was one of his best at procuring young girls into her entrapment and delivering them to him when he was in town. And when it came to time in the private chambers with Jeffrey, her and I, as I say, the writing is atrocious. It wasn't hard to comprehend. She was devoted to the moment, giving Jeffrey every imaginable lustful desire he could fathom. On the last night there, we all took a trip over to St. James to go for a stroll. Odd, I thought. It was past 7 p.m., and Jeffrey rarely strayed out past then, unless it was some event or dinner party. While Ghislaine and him looked the average couple strolling arm in arm through the streets, he said to Sarah and I, "Why don't you two hit the nightclub here and see if there is anyone interesting to bring back for the evening?" Swingers clubs, I mean, there's a there's a place called Swinger just at below DuPont Circle. Now, it used to be, I went there, oh gosh, when I came back to DC, I went there with my brother and his friends, and they had pool tables down there, you know, serve food, drink, and some pool tables or something. But yeah, I was thinking the other day, I was like, it was in the evening, I was like, I should go and ask them what the deal is there. There's another place just around the corner here in Adams Morgan that's like a speakeasy. You gotta knock at the door. While Ghislaine and him looked the average couple's, oh, okay, here. It was more of an order than a request. And then I knew why we came out tonight and why Sarah was invited. Tonight was all about training, and Sarah was going to show me the ropes in picking up girls. That's what nightclubs are for, and always have been. And that's why, I mean, I always say to people, I'm like, nightclubs, they were a fun place to work. Back in the day, the people were pretty decent who worked there. Now, I mean, I can't stand anybody. And okay, I guess they're young kids and we just have different look, let's perspective of life. But yeah, I was like, no, I don't want to hang out with these people. I mean, this is why, these are all the reasons that I left the United States in the 80s. Although there was no one accustomed to Jeffrey's distinct taste to bring back. Watching Sarah flirt from girl to girl like a floating butterfly gave me enough insight into what I was expected to do. Within, I mean, as I say, go to any of these swingers clubs, these nightclubs, and I mean, that's what everybody does, is to go and pick up people. I mean, that's what the whole thing's about. Within months, I had become his handy little helper. Not only would I run to his beck and call, but I also aided Ghislaine in bringing in more girls to keep the appetite of our sexually starving chief from going hungry. And, you know, the thing is New York, you had Studio 54, and that was eventually closed down with there was all the cocaine, and I mean, it wasn't, how shall I say it, they weren't, let's just say it was tame compared to Plato's Retreat, where it was literally just nude bodies all over the place and one big huge orgy. And I kid you not. Check it out. Google it. Wikipedia, you can find a page on that. Plato's Retreat. I mean, absolutely disgusting. And like, one of the things that really, I mean, gross, all of these people, well, obviously men, ejaculating into the swimming pool all at the same time. I'm like, Oh my God. And people would go in that swimming. I mean, just read it. Look into it. Yeah, so these nightclubs, these are pretty tame. Uh, let's see. Within months, I had become his handy little helper. Not only would I run to his beck and call, but I also aided Ghislaine in bringing in more girls to keep the appetite of our sexually starving chief from going hungry. I once asked Ghislaine why she did what she did for him instead of having a common monogamous relationship and getting jealous like normal partners would. She replied simply, "It takes the pressure off me having to do it. That's that said it all. We were all under the shade of Jeffrey's money tree, and not even someone like her could escape from its lure." Yeah, I mean, but this is what, the whole East Coast ruling elite is all about. Everybody's a commodity to be used, and I mean, as Bobby Kennedy says about his mother in an interview, she saw everybody as friend or foe, and her treatment of her staff and children were at odds with her human rights rhetoric. Polite way of putting it. Just like Ghislaine Maxwell. I mean, it's a dog eat dog world. Everybody, this is why I've been canceled for speaking out about all of this corruption. All of this stuff that's coming out on the Epstein files, I've been saying, and it's been posted on Facebook, LinkedIn, all of all of the Foxcroft girls, they can't say that they didn't know. Okay, all the girls from Cobham, they're not quite so much on Facebook and or LinkedIn, and I was there for a much shorter time, um, and lost contact with a lot of them. But still, this is my whole point with all of the letters, like Cobham Hall, Princess Antonia of Prussia. She's the great 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 granddaughter of Kaiser Wilhelm. Yeah, World War One. But Marianne Seigart, her great 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 grandfather, was the economist who, in cahoots with what Kaiser Wilhelm's um, entourage, is what brought the 29 crash. So, I'm like, you guys, your families have been doing this for generations, and we're all going down the same path again. Start using your position and your power to do something about it. I mean, because guess what? The techie oligarchs, they're gaining more and more and more power and wealth, and I mean, they will come after you. They want to destroy you. I mean, this is the whole thing. You still have some power, some money and some power, so stand up and grow a pair before your goose is cooked. Okay, just like Ghislaine had trained me, it was now my job to reiterate that on to other girls, and thus the cycle of girls trying to climb the chain of hierarchy would start all over each time I brought a new one in. See, I mean, some of her sentences, it's just like, what are you saying? Okay. The session rarely differed much. They would mostly start out with Jeffrey on top of the massage table, already naked, and leading a girl into massaging him until his instructions came to remove our clothing. And if they agreed to that, then Jeffrey knew he had them in his pocket and could do whatever else he wanted. Well, if they said no, then they'd give a massage and they'd say, okay, well, thank you, goodbye. I mean, if they didn't, she's saying, so it did happen that there were girls who would come and say, well, yeah, no, I'm just here to give you a massage. I mean, I think any girl, I would be like, are you retarded or what? You didn't know that, wink, wink, you're not a masseuse, and somebody, approaches you in the shopping mall or a nightclub and say, you want to come and give a massage to this guy, and you're not a masseuse, and you don't understand what it's all about. uh we need to have a little talk. We need to have a little talk with your mother and where you're going to school and your community. Okay. He was never turned down in the many years I stayed with him. Well, um, I mean, you just kind of said that there were girls that were like, okay, goodbye. Never being shy, he would tell us to start kissing each other, or depending on what he wanted, we would perform erotic acts, sometimes with him fondling us or just masturbating while he watched. I mean, this is like the movie, wasn't it the Seven Shades of Grey or something like that? Wasn't that a box office hit? On explicit occasions, sex toys would be used on us girls, making it all the more exciting for him to observe, ending with a payment of $200 for the new girl and $400 for me for bringing her. He would then wait for us to leave before adding the event's details of names and payments in a little black diary he kept with him wherever he went. So if he were in any one of the cities he lived in, he would always have contacts for sex. Well, this is, the little black book is your Epstein list. Um, I mean, at least for the ones who are supplying the sex. I was slowly climbing the ladder, as Jeffrey was happy, taking me everywhere with him within the States. Merely at home, I distanced myself from my family altogether, and with Jeffrey renting me an apartment in Royal Palm Beach, as well as a plush furnished apartment in NYC, there was hardly a need to see them. I mean, okay, let's just Google it for a second. Royal Palm Beach. I mean, obviously the other place, but she's got her own freaking apartment, luxury apartment in New York, and a luxury apartment here, Royal Palm Beach. Located, despite its name, the village is located approximately 15 miles inland from the Atlantic Ocean. Is known for its many parks and general mission to protect green spaces. Okay, it was developed by food fair magnates, like grocery store magnates. I want to see. Well, it just explains the. I can find some photos. Yeah, here. Not too shady. Oh, the Palm Beaches. Okay, yeah. Oh, wow. They got nearby attractions. I mean, otherwise, she's working at $9 an hour jobs instead of just being a kept woman at Royal Palm Beach and in a plush apartment in uh, in New York City. I mean, I know that there were many people who would be like, "What? And all I have to do is sleep with this guy in exchange? Yeah, well, I'm good." I mean, hell, how many? Because also, a lot of these girls, as explained before, this was also a pathway to finding a meal ticket husband amongst, because some of these girls did marry these guys that they're being prostituted to. So, the whole thing. I was slowly climbing the ladder as Jeffrey was happy taking me everywhere with him within the states. Merely at home, I already read that, sorry. I just couldn't face everyone thinking they all knew what I was really doing traveling around with a man old enough to be my grandfather, who supposedly only wanted me for massages. Well, he would have been a young grandfather, but definitely her father. Much further, but Ron Eppinger, she had already been in that situation and she did this willingly. Much further convincing myself of the lies I told myself, I took a liking to the Xanax. Well, everybody in this country has, my lord. When I listen to people talking about their their pills, I will not ever touch that stuff. Um, Never any of those. You know, Oh, well, I did during the divorce. They did give me something, some tranquilizer or something. I was like, this is not helping because you're not removing the source of my stress. If you would just remove the source of my stress, my husband trying to kill me and my lawyers and the courts trying to shut me up and my family abandoning, hoping that I will die. Um, you remove that, I'm good. I don't need anything to help me with my stress. Okay, so um I took a liking to the Xanax. It felt like it was all a dream at times, even meeting up with old contacts from school years who experimented with drugs. Yeah, they sat around doing drugs all the time. I was flying around the country, seeing so many places in America I had only heard about in movies and making more money than anyone my age and loving it. I mean, I gave up a stellar career in the financial markets and I was living in an au pair. I was making real good money. I gave it all up and I went, and the stories about the apartments, the student rooms up at the top of these Haussmannian apartment buildings in Paris, it's true. The room was okay. The worst, because it's just a room with a sink in the corner. I mean, it keeps a roof over your head. You're dry. You got heat. Like it's enough of what you need. However, there is only one toilet. It's at the end of the hall for everybody, and it has not been cleaned in a century since it was created, and they're disgusting. So, yeah, like I'm sorry. I'm just, all of these sugar babies and stuff, and they want to cry. Oh, nobody, I had to because I had to pay my way through school. I'm like, don't give me that. I I slung hash and when I was in school and since I've been back here, I mean, that was the idea of my mom and everybody else. Oh, she's got to find herself a new meal ticket husband. And it was absolutely disgusting how, particularly the wives at the IMF Family Association, were so afraid that, you know, don't give her access to her husband. She might steal him. I mean, this whole thing of, well, no, either you got to find a meal ticket husband or you can go and live in a tent on the street and jump off a bridge because you opted out. Um, I'm like, well, no wonder you all become so paranoid about husband stealing, particularly with Juan Williams' wife, who she is the whitest black person that this city has. And my Lord, you know, painting your hair green and blue and all of that shit, you really should get over that by the time you're in your 20s. Okay. My friends, of course not. I had only heard about in movies and making more money than anyone my age and loving it. My friends didn't believe the lies I told them about only being a massage therapist. Of course not. I mean, you know, did y'all just get off the boat? She she's got this great apartment in Palm Beach, another great apartment in New York, and living the high life and, you know, shopping whenever she wants, yet she's just a massage therapist. Some of them even asking if they can meet Jeffrey too. See, these are her girlfriends from high school. These are the ones who are friends with patriotic housewife. At this point in my life, my heart went missing for a while, and I stooped so low I was even bringing my friends. They asked her. I just saw them as easy commission. They were. But I mean, um, when I wasn't playing servant to my master, I was partying hard, eventually using ecstasy pills, acid, and marijuana to disillusion the times I would have had away from Jeffrey to think about what I was actually doing with my life. Well, it's also because you're sitting around doing nothing. So, like everybody else out there sitting around doing nothing, I mean, we'll hear in her memoirs how her apartment in Palm Beach, her friend, what's her friend's name? I forget who, it's not the real name, but I forget. He comes in, he's hanging out all of the time, he's even living there. He has a new girlfriend, and that she gets pissed off about that. I mean, this is one of the problem with the idle rich. Of course, they do all sorts of drugs because they're sitting around doing nothing. Uh, I realized something one day while I was alone. Although I had Jeffrey to attend to sexually, it was not gratifying. I needed someone to come home to, someone I could call my boyfriend, and that showed me emotion, not just a job to get done. Well, you know, like this girl has delusions of what being a sugar baby really is. I mean, this is one of the reasons why these men go to escort service and have, you know, go to prostitutes because I just want the sex and I don't want any entanglement and I don't want anything else. I mean, that's prostitution is one of the oldest professions in the world. A knock came to my apartment door one lazy afternoon while we were in Palm Beach. And actually, if you like interview a prostitute, a lot of them will tell you that these men, they're lonely and they need somebody to talk to. And a lot of them have a repeat clientele. I mean, it's not, as I say, it's not a lifestyle I would encourage or I condone, but I'm not going to, you know, if it's their body and that's what they want to do and they're consenting age, well, then I don't think it should be illegal. I think it should, in fact, I promote it being regulated because then you can make sure that these girls are kept safe and clean, and maybe through that try and stop this tradition in our society. Okay, enough. Oh, this is chapter 7. So I'm going to end there. I'm going to try and do just one chapter because I'm already, one chapter is an hour and a half. Uh, so this, oh, it's his name is TJ, the friend. So yeah, we'll see in the next chapter. Um, I got to get ready for work, so that'll probably be this afternoon. Um, in the next chapter. See, I go in. I don't even sling hash. They put me in the kitchen next to a grill, a hot grill, and I'm like, you know what? I mean, even one time I got fired for, I forget which one, if it was by the black bullies or it was the American Indian one. But anyway, the pedophile, the convicted pedophile from the Moonies guy who was living in the room next to me, he kept on flashing me and walking around naked and leaving his door ajar. Um, so you know, I would, the way it is, because it's at an angle, the doors, my door and his, and so you know, you couldn't help but it's right in front of you. I told my sister, I was like, what does he think I'm gonna do? Like, burst into his room and go, oh my God, it's, you know, I can't stand it anymore. Like, take me, I'm yours. Or like, buddy, I'll service you if you pay my rent. I mean, that was basically, obviously, what he was looking for. And I'm like, gross. No, I'll see my landlord again in court. And if it's God's will that I end up living in a tent on the street, yeah, I never liked camping. Well, that's God's will, you know. So I just, and I mean, the reason I can't find a decent job and I keep on getting fired is because I've been offered up as a sacrificial lamb by the ruling elite to atone for their sins, and I'm targeted in hate crimes and discrimination by everybody around me. I mean, I keep on explaining to the Latinos. Oh, I mean, of course, I'm working in the kitchen. It's all Latinos. The problem is with that tactic. See, if they had pulled that on a white gringa, another, you know, some white gringa from Northwest DC, she would have lost it and she would have quit. And, you know, even though there's no other job, I mean, I'm like, no, I can't quit. But see, my Spanish is perfect. The Colombians can't understand, or not only the I lived in Colombia, but the South Americans can't understand why I speak like a Spaniard. The Spaniards can't understand why I speak like a South American. That's how good my Spanish is. So, and when they pull that shit on me, I'm just like, you know, I'm like, I understand everything that you're saying. Well, they speak really, really bad. See, this is the thing, Central Americans, that they really, I'm sorry, there is something to be said of speaking a language correctly because they garble their words. It's all really enunciate. I mean, I have the same pet peeve with English or French. I mean, other languages, of course, I can't opine, but you know, if you're going to speak a language, learn how to speak it properly, particularly if you only speak one language. Not real hard. Yeah. Okay, so we'll see that later. Hasta la vista.